Welcome to Introspection with Mona. Today we'll discuss what reflection means to you. I'm hopeful that many of you took the time to read the blog, and perhaps it's raised some questions in your own mind, and at the very least brought some awareness. Before we get started with our guest, I invite you to share your thoughts and feelings at leadonwithlove.com or at one of our social media platforms, Lead On With Love. Welcome, Denise, and thank you for joining us on Introspection with Mona. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Denise. I am a reader. I've been a tarot reader for about 10 years, and I've sort of grown up very spiritual, and because of my grandmother, who is basically like a sort of psychic medium sort of thing, although she would never really call herself that. But through my life, I've sort of transitioned as I got older more into like witchcraft and more into that sort of spiritual realm. And I feel like I use my practice personally to do a lot of reflection and a lot of, what you sort of talked about on your blog. So yeah, that's me.
Can you share anything that you have experienced on your own journey?
Like in regards to reflection, well, I work with spirits. So my two main deities that I work with, they actually help me a lot when it comes to reflection and inner growth and things like that. So there's two stories that I can think of, because the way that I go about my reflections is usually really, really deep meditation and sort of like trance work. The first was with one of my goddesses. Basically, the way I sort of get into these trance-like states is I go into meditation and I enter this sort of safe space that's in sort of like my mind. And then I open a door and I start descending down a set of stairs. And as I descended the stairs, it got dark. And when I came down to the bottom of the stairs, I was sort of hit with this like really heavy light, like sunlight sort of thing. Sort of like when you're in a submerged darkness and all of a sudden somebody rips the curtains open. Mm-hmm. And when I turned, she was gone, of course. And I saw in front of me this sort of like a coliseum, like an arena, sort of like a gladiator type pit.
Right.
And I saw these weapons in front of me, and I had a very keen hunch as to what she wanted me to do, and I did not want to do it. But I finally felt these phantom hands on my back pushing me forward. So I had to go and pick up, I believe I picked up a shield and a sword. And when I turned around, there was an army of Denises. It was an army of me. There must have been like 10 or 15 of them. And it was very clear, I'm pretty sure one of them told me, but it was very clear that I had to fight them. And they just went at me, wailed on me. Wasn't really a fair fight, but it didn't hurt that they were hitting me. What hurt was what they were saying to me. Just like calling me every name in the book, you're this, you're that, you're worthless, you're a failure, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I got very frustrated, I got very angry. So I swung my sword around behind me, and I sort of yelled that out, why are you being so horrible to me? And my sword hit nothing. And the momentum swung me around, and suddenly I was facing a mirror. And my goddess was standing next to the mirror. And she said, why do you say such horrible things to yourself? And that was it. I was like, darn it. Well, I guess that's why we're here, huh? The second was with my my patron, the other deity I work with, and he sent me down the stairs, and I was wading through darkness. I had already hit the bottom of the stairs, and I was wading through darkness, and it was like I was walking through tar and walking through like muck, and there was nothing I could do, to the point where I ended up sort of on my back trying to get up. And there hit a point where I realized that it wasn't me as I am wading through all of this. It was a younger version of myself. And that was sort of when it clicked, that like, and I also kept hearing, again, voices berating me and all this stuff. And that was sort of when it clicked that there was stuff I needed to work on for like my inner self and my inner child, and I finally had to wade my way through it. And eventually I came to like a door where my deity met me, and I was like, well, that sucked. And he was like, yeah, but what did you learn? And I was like, well, yeah, I get it. So yeah, those are like really deep reflections, at least, that I've been through.
So in both aspects, I know we're talking about reflection, but in both aspects we're dealing with the ego. You know, and it goes to show you how far back ego goes.
Yep.
You know, if it's affecting yourself now, but it goes as far back as your inner child. It goes way far back. But again, ego's for a different day. We'll talk about that. And I'm sure that you reflected on both of those, recognizing that you're kind of stuck where you are right now, and that you have to tread through and fight off all aspects of yourself.
Correct.
So I want to ask you, what are your personal thoughts on reflection?
I mean, I think that reflection is a really important part of, like, not just spiritual life, but life in general. I feel like a lot of people, not just reflecting on themselves, but reflecting on, like, their actions and things like that. I feel like a lot of people tend to forget that every single action they have and that they take has a consequence associated with it. So it's not just about, like, oh, I need to reflect on all these things I'm feeling. It can also be, I need to reflect on what I'm doing. What do my words do to this person? How does my action impact everything else? It's about self-awareness, I feel like.
I agree. I've heard somebody say to me, oh, they reflect every day. I think it's amazing that you reflect every day, but what are you doing with that reflection? How are you changing to better yourself as a person with that reflection? I often say there's no point of reflection if we aren't going to take the information that we have and do better with it.
Yeah.
If there was one thing that I could ask you that you took away from this blog, what would that one thing be?
I think that a lot of people lack self-awareness, unfortunately, when they're dealing with each other. I've been on sort of the end of people wanting to show me stuff and wanting to, like, get all this validation from me and things like that, and sort of looking to me for information, advice, things like that. Again, I'm a reader, so I deal with that a lot.
Right.
And I've been on the end of people, like, just wanting to have all my attention and tell me all their business without really wanting my input. They're just sort of talking to themselves in my, like, DMs, in my, like, messages. And it's not, I don't think that these people are bad people. I just think that they really, really lack the self-awareness. Like, as an example, for me and you, whenever I message you, I know that you're busy.
Right.
I know that if you don't take my call, it's not personal. I know that, like, you don't have a lot of time, not because you don't make time, but because you have so many things to do and so much on your plate all the time. So for me, whenever I do take up your time, I'm always trying to be really considerate.
Right.
I've had people come to me and not be considerate of my time, my energy, you know, my money, the things that I'm doing.
Right.
So I think that takes a level of self-awareness. And the only reason I think I have that personal self-awareness is because it's been done to me.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we learn through experiences, right? I also want to ask you, do you have a personal process when you are reflecting? Is there a certain process that you go through that you can share?
So for me, I tend to journal a lot and as well as I meditate. For the journaling process, I usually will look at, usually it's an emotion that I'm feeling currently. So as an example, most of my emotions that are different actually end up manifesting outwardly as anger. So whether it's I'm hurt or I'm sad or I'm whatever, it always comes out as anger. And I try not to be an angry person, but sometimes it just comes out. One that happened a few years back that I can think of, my aunt. I love my aunt. I love all my aunts. But this aunt in particular is very much a lot.
All right.
She's the type of person that's just very overwhelming and tends to get like her way and doesn't understand boundaries sometimes. And she doesn't do it maliciously. That's just how she is. She's just always been that way. And there was a point in time where I was just so angry with her. Like every time I saw her, I was so like annoyed with her and so whatever. But like this aunt of mine, she acted as like a second mom to me for a lot of time. Like we lived with her, and like when my mom was at work, she would be with me. So like I know I love her. I know that's
right.
like, you know, so I knew there was something wrong and I had to get to the bottom of it. So I had to write down all the things I was feeling towards her. And I had to ask for every single feeling, why? Why? And it's exhausting and it sucks, but I had to do it. But at the end of the day, I realized that it wasn't something she was doing to me, and it wasn't that she was doing anything bad to me. It was more that she was touching on and triggering a sensitive, like, subject for me. For me, I don't feel like anybody listens to me. And my aunt is the embodiment of that. She doesn't listen to anybody. So for me, I had to sort of reconcile with, like, she's not doing it to me. That's how she is. She's not doing it out of malice. She just doesn't know how to listen sometimes. So I had to reconcile with that because it wasn't a problem with anybody else. It was a problem within me, and it was a problem that wasn't just like a current one. It stemmed all the way back to when I was a kid. So yeah.
Would you say in your reflection process that it was important for you to be honest?
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty is like the biggest thing, because throughout all of that, when it comes to asking why, you need to be really, really, really honest with yourself. Because I could have wrote, okay, well, my aunt, my aunt touching my things annoyed me. Why? Well, because she doesn't respect boundaries, and she's this and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. That's not being honest.
Right.
That's not being honest. That's listing more things that are upsetting you, as opposed to being like, why am I reacting that way? Because I can't control what anybody else does. I can only control what's going on within me.
And again, most things that trigger you, it's because the button already exists.
Exactly.
It's being triggered for it to be healed. And with that whole reflection process that you went through yourself, were you able to heal that or reconcile that?
I think it's something that runs really deep.
Okay.
I think that still I have an issue with people like feeling that people don't listen to me.
Right.
But with my aunt, I remember once I had finished that, because that was the thing that was like a sore spot with her particularly, and I was so angry with her. But after I had dealt with that, her and I's relationship, I was no longer upset with her. I was no longer angry with her. Every time she did something that upset me, I was like, okay, well, like it wasn't just me pushing off my feelings. It was me genuinely recognizing what I was feeling, understanding it, and it no longer bothered me because I understood within myself that my aunt wasn't doing that to me on purpose.
Right. So that's something you've kind of reconciled with her.
Yes.
Would you say you've reconciled that in other aspects of your life, or it's not quite there yet?
I think it's mostly okay. I think certain people definitely trigger that still.
Right.
But there's always going to be people that, maybe you don't always feel heard around them and things like that. But I think it's slowly getting better, that particular thing.
Okay, so that's a good thing. So still the reflection is still there. It's still something that you have to do in order to clear that out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a ongoing thing for you.
And that's the thing, is that it never ends, right?
No.
Everyone's like, oh, I'm done. I've done my reflection. No. That's not how that works.
No.
Because now you uncover more things.
Exactly. Once you dive in, unfortunately, this is a lifelong process. And I always say to people, it's a journey, not a race.
Yep.
So take the time that you need to take, because it is a journey, not a race. I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to thank you for providing us with another perspective. I hope we gave our audience a different point of view to look at, another chance to inspire change. We'd like to hear from you about today's podcast. Let us know your thoughts and feelings. You can leave a comment. You can message us at Lead On With Love, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Lead On With Love. Thanks for tuning in to Introspection with Mona. Until next time, peace, love, and blessings to you and the world that surrounds you.